Collaboration Podcast Production.
We're not always going to be on one accord. We ain't always going to be perfect at the same time. Like, we ain't going to both always be good.
Yeah.
Thank God for the good moments when we both be like, yeah, I'm good, you good, we good. But sometimes, you know what, we ain't good. And we got to be like, all right, I got you. And we got to be okay with that.
And that's part of the journey. That's the work. That's why it's marriage. It's not a rom-com or fairy tales all the time. And the honeymoon phases come and go. And
yes. And some days you don't like each other. We love by default. Right? That's why we got a heart. God designed us to love. He did not design us to like. Right? So it's why you can see a stranger about to get hit by a car and your instinct is to save them. You might save them and then realize, oh, I don't like you though.
You don't have to like them, but you don't have to let them die.
All right? Okay, good. Y'all going about your business, right?
Tabitha.
Hello there.
Thank you so much for coming in, for joining us in the studio. I mean, straight out the gate, you got the energy, you got the fire. So I know this is going to be a whole lot of fun.
Came with the color.
And you got the color, you got the memo. Like, which one do you want to match with?
I love it. I love it.
So I'm not here to tell who you are, what you're about. You're here for that. So like, how do you become Tabitha? Who are you? What is the journey? And then from there, we're going to go on a journey.
How do I become Tabitha? I wake up.
Yeah.
Okay. I be me. Well, you know, I'm from Eden, North Carolina, small town. Grew up there, born and raised, and always had a desire and a dream to perform. Ever since watching the Cosby Show as a little girl, I wanted to be Rudy's friend. I was like, you know what, Mama, I want to ring the doorbell next and come in the house and say something. Because her friend Peter never talked, and I didn't like that. And so I had something to say, and she was like, oh, that means you want to be an actress. And I was like, oh. So I was probably about 5 or 6. And from that age, I just kept trying to figure out, how do I become that? I didn't know anybody. You know, nobody in my family was in entertainment, okay? Started doing community theater, church plays, school plays, anything I could to perform. And then in high school, I really got into fashion and started designing clothes. And when it was time to go to college, my mama was like, you know, I know that you really want to do your acting thing, but you are really good at your clothing thing. So maybe you should go to school for fashion design. So then you have something to fall back on if the acting thing doesn't work out. And I don't think she was trying to discourage me from acting. She was just kind of doing what she knew to do, like a plan B. And so I decided, okay, Mama, that sounds like a good idea. And I went to International Fine Arts College in Miami to study fashion design. And I was there the first semester, and I was like, all I could think about was acting. And I called my daddy one night. I was like, Daddy, you better come get me. I'm wasting your money. I'm supposed to be acting. That was 97. I quit, school and went on this pursuit of trying to figure out, how do I become this person I feel? And applied to Columbia College in Chicago and went out there with my mom in the spring. Let's be clear. You go to Chicago in the spring, you be like, oh, this is nice. Right? You don't know nothing about that winter.
Might hook you.
Yeah, and they got me. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I got accepted to Columbia College. And right when it was time to go in August, maybe about 2 weeks before, they sent me a letter and said they couldn't approve my financial aid because I had already had financial aid, right, in Miami. My parents ain't had no money. And so I was like, oh, man, I ain't going to get to go and pursue my acting. What do I do now? And so my mama knew somebody that had told me, I live in California. If you ever want to come out, you can rent a room. So I called her and I was like, hey, is that offer still on the table? And she was like, yeah, come on out. She never told me she was crazy. Didn't tell me that part. She just said I could rent a room. And that was what, like 98, came out, was not in LA, was in Orange County at the bottom, Laguna Niguel. It was beautiful. But I was broke, struggling, working 2 jobs. My husband was my boyfriend at the time. He came out. He was like, this is crazy. You're not doing any acting. You're working 2 jobs. We can barely afford to live out here. Let's move back to North Carolina because it's cheaper. Save up for a year and then move back to LA so you can really pursue your acting. And so I was like, all right, that sounds like a good idea. And we moved back, and that 1-year plan turned into 5 years, a baby. We got married, working, house, cars, and a forgotten dream. I convinced myself that I got all these new responsibilities. I'm young. You from a small town and you have a baby, you might as well, cancel Christmas and just
hang up the hat. You're done.
That's it. Just live happily ever after in your marriage and, your family. And I became content and tried to push that thought of a dream, far down and not even think about it. And then one morning, it felt like an earthquake happened in Greensboro, because I was living in Greensboro, North Carolina. And my bed shook me awake. And when I woke up, I heard a voice that sounded like thunder. And the voice said to me, "This is not the life I planned for you." And I got scared. And I was like, "Wait a minute, Lord." And I got on my knees. I started praying. And I was like, "Lord, if this is you speaking to me, I'm going to need you to show me a sign today. Because if not, I think I'm losing my mind, And I told my husband what happened. I think he did think I was losing my mind. And so later that day, we were on our way to the mall. And Buster Brown was the DJ. He was like the big DJ in our triad. He came on the radio and he said, "Hey, this is Buster Brown. I got a new TV show on the WB network, and I'm looking for a female co-host holding auditions." And I almost lost it. I was like, "Oh my God, that's my sign. I prayed for a sign." Yeah, I was like, "I got to go to this audition." And I went to the audition and I booked it. It was my first audition for television. I booked it, and that's how I started dreaming again. I did that job for like a year, producing my own segments and, interviewing. And I started doing theater again, and I would drive like 3 hours to do extra work in Wilmington, North Carolina on One Tree Hill. And I did all this for about a year or so, and then I told my husband, now it's time to move to LA. I've done everything I could do here. I could feel it calling me back. And so that was 2004 when we moved to LA. And, when you hear this voice, it's like, oh, I know that somebody's waiting for me in LA. And then I got to LA.
Yeah.
And won't nobody waiting for Tab. I was like, where they at? Oh, they y'all ain't waiting for me. Okay.
You're like, where's the mirror so I can catch myself?
Yeah. So I went and got me a good old job at Macy's. And then just a few months after getting to LA, I'm just excited to be here though. I'm like, oh my God, now I finally get to pursue this dream.
Yeah.
A few months after getting here, my mom got sick back home, and she was diagnosed with ALS. And listen, you get one mama, right? And I had an amazing mama. And so I went back home for the next 3 years, back and forth, to help take care of her until she passed away. And then after that, in 2007, I was like, I gotta go hard. Like I ain't gonna say no to anything. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna do this. And so I pursued it very hard. I did a lot of like straight to DVD movies back in the day when there was a Blockbuster. I don't even think people even know what that is anymore. I had a lot of DVDs go like straight to Walmart, things like that. Did a lot of commercials and testimonials, music videos, anything I could. A lot of small victories. And then me and my husband decided that we wanted to have another baby. And so I was like, well, you know what? I need to get a full-time job, because while I had all those small victories, it was small paychecks. $50 here, $500 here. Some months it might be a couple thousand, but it wasn't anything big, and nobody knew me, And so I went back to work and got a 9-to-5 after leaving, Macy's. I went and found another job. I can always get a job. Let's be clear. I can always find a job. And so I worked in contract manufacturing. And I was doing that for years until I got sick in 2016. And didn't know what in the world was happening. I had a car accident in high school. And so I always have had like a bad issues with my neck because of that accident. And so I woke up with this headache in the back of my head. And I thought, oh, I'm about to have an episode. And this happens sometimes where, you have this terrible chronic pain that goes into your neck and in your back of your head. And it usually lasts a couple of days, but this headache stayed and it rested for 1 year and 7 months.
Damn.
Never went away. Every single day. Some days were better than others, but it was every day. And then it started to be accompanied by chronic fatigue in my body, chronic pain throughout my body. I started to fall when I would walk. I had blurred vision. So many different weird things were happening. As a woman, all my female stuff was starting to like shut down. I was like, I'm dying.
Yeah.
And the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And I was there every week, it felt like. Blood work, MRIs, x-rays.
Every test under the sun.
Every test, and everything would come back normal. And they would say, well, we know something is happening. We just can't figure it out. And because of them not knowing, they would offer me any drug that they thought could help my symptoms. And I would take it because I was desperate. And I took injections in my head, in my spine. I took all kind of steroids, antibiotics. If anything, it probably made me worse, And then my daughter came home from school one day and she said, Mom, we saw this documentary at school I think you should watch it. And I was like, well, it ain't every day that a teenager come home and tell you to watch a documentary. So pop the popcorn, okay? And it was What the Health on Netflix.
Yeah.
And so we watched it together as a family. And when they started talking about not all diseases are hereditary, is that sometimes we eat the same thing that can cause the same disease in your family. And so for me, that was like a light bulb moment, because my mama died at 51, of a rare disease, ALS. There's no cause or cure. My daddy was the first man to ever hit 70 in our family a year ago. And people die at young ages in my family, and they get sick at young ages. And the only thing I could think that we had in common was how we ate. And it was the only thing I hadn't tried.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, let me do a 30-day vegan challenge. I ain't got nothing to lose. I done tried everything else. And so we did it together as a family. And in the first 10 days, the headache I'd had every day, it disappeared. And you know how you've been in pain for so long that pain becomes your norm?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember walking in my kitchen and being like, oh, wait, my head ain't hurting. Like I was in shock. And so I knew I was on to something. And so every day I just started to feel better and started to feel like myself again. And after the 30 days, I told my husband, I was like, I know I said I was going to do 30 days, but I think this is going to be my life, I'm going to go vegan. And here we are over 5 years later. This is who Tab is now. So the long story of how I become this Tabitha. And that's how the journey began.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things that I'm hearing here, but I did hear another story that I want to touch on before, because there was a moment, and I think a lot of us fall for this, where, you're on this quest to become this actress. You start trying to look like them.
Oh, yeah.
So we always forget, as creators, as our artists, as individuals, we forget who we are and start masking that and going down another path. Oh, I need to be that person so I can get to this goal and this dream. So I know there's a little bit of that in there. And how did that play into maybe part of this as well?
It started early for me, right? Code switching started early for me, right? Conforming, watching my mama and how she talked to bill collectors, how she walked into the bank. It was like, well, she don't sound the same as she sound when we at home. Is that how we have to talk to get what we need or to survive? So I picked that up early, and then me going into corporate America first. I used to work at UPS at the call center. I was a manager, and I was so, picking up, the phone and talking to people all over the world that I sounded ignorant. I sound country. And so I was like, oh, I got to mask that. I got to cover my accent. I got to try to sound, neutral. And then moving to LA and getting entertainment, same thing. It was like, you know what, you got to cover that accent. You'll get typecast. Nobody want to hear that unless they ask for it. Having agents tell me, with your complexion, your hair needs to be straight if you want to get TV work. So I wore my hair straight because I used to have locks. My first agent in North Carolina, when I started back, performing, I had locks because when me and my husband got married, that was how we bonded, because we both had locks. And so, because I wasn't no virgin. So we thought of something. Okay.
We have our own thing.
We had our own thing. I was very deep. Okay. Yeah. And so she told me, she was like, you need to strip those out or cut them off, because nobody wants to see a black woman on TV with locks. And I believed her. And so then coming out here and having to lose weight, straighten my hair, cover my accent, I created this version of Tabitha that I thought Hollywood wanted, that I thought would help me win, and I created her so deeply that even, the majority of my friends that I made out here didn't know the true me. I didn't even realize that until I was working back, when I was working after me and my husband had my son. I was working at this job at my office, and I had, taken a break, and my girlfriend had called me. We were on the phone, who's an amazing, Zaynab Johnson. She's a comedian, and she's like one of my best friends. And we're talking, and my daddy called. And I was like, oh, hold on, let me answer this phone call. Talked to my daddy on the other line for, probably 2 minutes. Click back over, and she didn't recognize my voice. She was like, hello? Because I was such in my freedom with my daddy that I forgot when I clicked back over. She was like, girl, I ain't never heard your voice be so country. And I was like, oh, not even my real friend knows my real voice.
Wow.
And that, it did something to me in that moment. In the back of my head, I put it there, but it bothered me. And so for years, when you create this other person to try to win, but it ain't you. It ain't freedom. And so when I got sick, I had this conversation with God because I had kind of lost faith, and I thought He had forgotten about me. That's my truth. And I grew up in the church, and I grew up being a woman of faith, and was always very prideful of that. But when you're sick for so long and you feel like I'm not gonna get better, and I feel like I'm gonna die, why are you doing this to me?
You feel forsaken.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm like, what did I do? But I had what I call my last call and my meeting with Jesus in the bathroom, right? And so I was really in search of trying to see my soul. When they say the only way you can do that is through your eyes. So I got in the mirror and I prayed and I said, God, if you heal me, you can have me. And that meant I had to be who He created me to be, not this person that I created anymore. And that day, something felt different when I walked out the bathroom, like something changed inside of me. And I realized that now, when I think about the sickness, I feel like part of the reason I was probably so sick is because I was suffocating the true me. Like I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Right? So I had to start taking layers off. And I've been taking them layers off for the last 5 years. I take them off every day.
Well, you're releasing energy, right? That was a lot of energy to create that shell and be in that character.
And for years, we're talking almost over 20 plus years, because if it started very young for me, right? And then as an adult, doing it in the workspace and in entertainment with friends, it's exhausting.
No, I bet. I can imagine, and going back to what you said to yourself and to God in the mirror, I love that you did that in the mirror, because we're all made in God's image, which means we're also God. We're not the God, but we're God because we're in His image and we're all love. But you said it to Him, but you said it to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I meant it, right? I meant it, and I knew I had to do work, and I do work every day, because the work of healing isn't permanent. It's a continuous journey until we gone, because we can always be triggered, and things can always bring up the old us. And it's how we react to it, which is the work that we have to do. So, yeah.
Doing the work helps us respond versus react.
Yes.
Right? Like we're always going to be triggered. It doesn't matter, but we can get out of the trigger quicker. Yeah. Maybe our self-awareness is a little keener, a little sharper. And that should be our goal, because we can't fix ourselves, but are we really broken?
Yeah.
Only if you say you're broken, like we're just who we are.
Yeah. We can, I look at it like, if you break a bone, right? And you get a cast put on, and that's how it helps heal properly. But sometimes we get broken and we never get the cast, and we think that we're healed.
You heal like a little crooked, a little off. We
healed the wrong way, right? And so sometimes we gotta get broken again, just so we can heal properly. And we got to be all right with doing that. Some people are afraid of being broken just to heal, but I'm not. I don't have any fear anymore. So.
No, that's great. No, I feel it. I feel it coming out of you. So thank you for sharing that. And let's go back to being vegan, right? You did the 30-day challenge. You made it your life. Was it like 30 days, then 90 days, or it was 30 days and you're like, nope, this is forever? Yeah. But how is that in your culture and your upbringing, right? Because veganism isn't like normal either.
It ain't.
So how does that work? Because now you're creating, you belong to a culture and you're bringing veganism into this culture, and now you've made it yours.
Right.
So how did that work out, and how have you been able to, still keep it home?
Well, I'm from the South, right? A whole Black woman. Wasn't nobody vegan when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Now, crazy enough, I was a vegetarian in high school when I was 15 until about 20. When me and my husband moved in together, he would be eating chicken and fish, and I'd be like, I think I can eat a little chicken and fish, but I never went back to red meat or pork since I was 15. Excuse me. So I experienced at a young age, my family kind of like joking me. You're like, girl, you ain't gonna eat no meat, So that fear was there again when I was like, I'm gonna go vegan. But you know what? I don't care. Like, I gotta do it. This is for me to save myself, And then I thought, well, I ain't going vegan because I don't like how non-vegan food tastes. I gotta figure out how to make my favorite meals vegan.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna share this with the world, I want it to be easy. I want it to be relatable. And I want it to be like, I'm giving you something new to try, not taking something away from you. And when I first went vegan, or whenever I would hear about it, I never thought of Black people. You know, that wasn't the vision that you would see.
Yeah.
My honest truth was I thought it was for white women who did yoga. I really did. I didn't know, right? Or it was a cult. And then when I went vegan,
An LA thing.
it had to be. That's what I was like. Or they out in the woods somewhere. That's what I thought. Or you had to be like a heavy activist that, you know, went for animal rights all the time. Like those were the only people that were vegan.
Yeah.
And they all never looked like me. And I think probably one of the first Black vegans I saw was John Sally. And I was like, oh, he vegan. You know? And then once I got in it and I started to like really meet people and travel, I was like, oh, wait, it's for everybody. But we need a face so that people know it's for everybody, right? And especially for me, being from the South, you know, I know our demographic and I know our, you know, medical issues that we have. And my family is proof of how we eat can also be how our health is, you know, determined. And so I was like, you know what? I just got to share so that people know, not force, but share and show up. And that's what I did. And I think I changed the way people see food.
And that became your truth, right? You started owning your truth. Like, this is me.
Yeah.
No one's changing tab. Like this, no one, I'm not doing it to myself again.
Yeah.
So it had to be normal for everyone to realize like, this is her and it's helping her. Like, let me try it out.
Yeah.
And you put your spin on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I've done challenges. I'll do 30 days, no meat. I grew up on meat. I do well with meat. It doesn't affect me in a bad way. I've just always found it more tedious to try to cook a full vegan meal because I'll end up like, okay, it's just sweet potatoes again. Like, you know, there's only so much lettuce I can eat and broccoli. Like, how do we make it fun?
I mean, I think when you overthink it, right? That's what it sounds like you're doing. It's just food. If you think about not being vegan, you know, you can count on your hands how many things that you can eat on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But when you're vegan, you can eat so much more and you're only not eating the things that you count on your hands. Everything else is
I've never heard it that way.
It's way more, right? Because you know, okay, I'm vegan, so I don't eat chicken, fish, lamb, beef, pork, right? No dairy.
Everything else
is free game, right? So when you think of it that way, you're like, oh, now let's see what I can get into. You know, and then just get creative and have fun with it. Don't look at it like a chore. I always tell people it's two ways to say things. You can be like, oh man, I got to eat vegan. Or you can be like, oh man, I got to eat vegan. Let me see what I can eat. You know what I'm saying? So it's how we think, how we approach it. But I try to make everything fun. Yeah.
No, totally. It's also different now than 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
even
20
5 years ago, it's different.
Yeah, like the opportunity, like jackfruit now, you can like make carnitas out of it.
Honey,
like,
that's my boy.
So it's like 20 years ago, 5 years ago, no one knew what that was. Now that stuff's kind of trending. So you can like, you get the jicamas, the tortilla, you fill it with a little jackfruit. Like it's so there, good. But it's making the habit. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just changing. I mean, for me, I stopped eating, you know, meat as a teenager. And that was like, I was the only person in my family. And people were looking at me like, girl, this girl crazy. Right. I was also a hippie, you know, and I was used to being different. And I didn't have a lot of options, but I learned to go to Burger King and be like, let me get that veggie Whopper, you know, and they'd be like, what? A Whopper without the patty, right? Back then I still used to eat cheese. And so it's just a matter of it becoming normal. And then after I started back eating fish and chicken, I knew not to eat red meat or pork. I learned how to look at a menu and read, same way with becoming vegan. When it becomes your lifestyle and it's not just like a diet, it's like, no, this is how I live, you know? And then eventually it became like, well, I don't want to wear leather anymore. You know, my mind starts to get open to things. I'm like, oh, wait, it's skin. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, it feels weird to me now. And I'm like, okay, let me get vegan leather, you know? Because it wasn't about the animals for me when I went. But when you are exposed and your mind starts to open, and I realized I always have loved animals. I've always been a very compassionate person. And then I started visiting sanctuaries and I was like, Lord Jesus, these babies can't speak for themselves. So I love them, you know, they have a purpose here as well. And some people be like, yeah, for us to eat them. I'm like, well, that's your business. I don't believe that for me, you know. But I never judge people because it's hard to break old habits, but we can break them.
Yeah.
So.
No, the judgment lens is heavy around vegan. Like I've been yelled at by vegans and like.
Me too.
But it's just, it's mind blowing. Like the judgment that starts coming, or it's like, well, you're not doing it right. What do you mean? Am I not eating meat? Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do then?
I can't even tell you. I can't count how many times, I'll get messages from like the hardcore ethical vegans who tell me that I'm not a good vegan, and I'll be thinking, how many people have you converted? I know I've converted. I can't even tell you, thousands, if not millions of people have tried to eat vegan or plant-based because of me and my approach to it. I'm never, ever going to judge people. I'm always going to lead in love, give it a little bit of humor, just make it relatable, make it fun where people are curious, right? But I'm never going to say, you need to go vegan. I'm never going to tell somebody their life is wrong. I'm just going to simply share my life and this good food that I'm eating and make people say, oh, let me try the stuff this girl talking about. That's how it happens. Listen, all these old black ladies in the South, when I go home, they be like, girl, I was looking at that thing you was cooking. I wanted to try that. I never had thought of cooking no mushrooms like that. But if you say, you need to do this because you kill, they can't hear that. It's like me growing up in the South and my daddy or uncles or grandparents saying, you need to go to church. Because you went to the club last night, you can go to church for the Lord on Sunday. I'm like, yeah, but then I don't want to go because you're trying to force me.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Don't try to force your life on anybody. Gently share it. And see
You're
what
like,
happens.
I got you. Come over. I'll show you my hospitality. I'll serve it to you.
Exactly. Honey, come to the house. I'm going to cook good for you. We're going to eat well. We're going to have fun together. So, yeah.
So my other question around that is processing the food, right? There's a lot of like the vegan cheese game is on a whole other level right now.
It is, yeah.
But like sometimes I've done these challenges and you're eating the stuff like this isn't cheese. Like what are we eating? Like there's some really bad stuff out there too. So how is navigating that?
Yeah, so I always tell people processed food is a process. It's part of the process. When you first go vegan, you have a lot of cravings. And processed food is great to help that in the beginning. And every now and then it's good for a treat. But whether you're vegan or not, no one should eat processed food every single day. We should all try to eat real food. If you don't have to read ingredients, you're doing good. Eat food that you don't have to like ask yourself, what's in this? We know what a potato look like. We know what rice is. We know what beans are. We know what seeds and nuts and greens. Try to eat more whole food. Yeah. But it is a process. It's hard in the beginning. When you have those cravings and you just want a burger. You're like, what's this impossible thing? What is this beyond? What is this burger tab got at Target? But you think about that, but not every day. Yeah. And drink your water, juice a lot. Try to make sure you're getting all the vitamins that you can from your food.
And I wanted to ask, like, what are your thoughts on that? The Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat, There've been black bean patties and quinoa patties. There's been all of that. One big issue I have with that is like, I'll eat that, then the bun, then the thing, and all of a sudden you've had 300 grams of carbs in one sitting and you're hungry in 30 minutes. That's really,
you gotta load it up with something else, okay? I think they're great options, right? I think that it's important to have an option. It's always more important for the planet, think about a vegan burger, right? Versus a beef burger. While it may be made with stuff in its process, what it has that an animal doesn't have is fiber. So once you eat it, your body knows how to process it. When you eat an animal, your body doesn't know how to process it. So it takes it longer. So which is sometimes why we get tired after we eat meat.
So I should put oats in my burger patty?
Hey, if that's your business.
No, but right. the lethargy and sitting.
Right, so we get tired because the body's in overdrive trying to figure out, okay, what is this in here and how do I break it down? So I think it's always great to have options. It's a good.
So what's your burger option?
My burger option?
Well, you just teased something.
Let me know. Tab, I got burgers at Target. I got barbecue. I got garlic and I have mushroom. Yeah.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah, try them. Listen, if you can get them.
If I can get
they sold out so fast.
I got the girl right here.
You got to come to the house. I'm about to take them out the freezer.
I'm coming over. I'll bring Remy and then the
bring the family.
Do you drink? I got this tequila coming out.
Yes, bring it. I love tequila, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Fun fact, tequila is vegan. That's what I always tell people.
It is, and it's the only upper out of all the liquors.
See?
Gives you a little energy.
You see that? That good old agave.
So, you told me this story that unraveled over decades. But some people may think, oh, she just popped up. It's an overnight success. I know COVID did very well for you. And a lot of people, because you're like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to double down on being me and I'm just going to put it out there. And it was a great time to be able to grow. So, what are some lessons we can share with the audience, with other women, with other men and people doing their businesses that say it's like, no, it takes time. I'm not an overnight success. And then once you start owning who you are, once you're just fabulous Tab, how do you just branch out and create all these businesses?
It definitely took a long time to get to this place, right? And when I first started doing videos, it was only because God told me to do so. I never wanted to do videos. I thought I would never be able to work as an actor because I was always told if you do videos as an actor, you're going to be frowned upon in Hollywood. So I was afraid to do that. But I did it. Consistency. I did it every day. Every day. I even had a scheduled time. When I first used to do my videos, I would cook live in my kitchen, 5 o'clock. I'd be like, 5 o'clock, y'all know I'm going live. I'm about to cook dinner for my family, right? No days off on that. It was a very consistent thing for me. If I found food options, I would share it. And I would just do it as me. I wouldn't try to be like, oh, let me get my full face of makeup on. Let me have a cute outfit. Honey, I would be in a whole, as they call them in the South, my husband like, a moo-moo. I have to have that on. I would just be in my house, you know. And I would just tell the truth. In the beginning, I didn't know why he had me doing videos. I was like, God, why do you have me doing this? Sometimes I would cry while I was cooking. I'd be like, I don't know why God got me doing this. He told me thousands of people were going to be watching. It's 33 people on here. I don't even know. And they all my family, But I kept doing it. Yeah. I didn't let that discourage me. And I still had a desire to perform. But I knew that he had me on this other journey for some reason. And so it was a different kind of performing. But it wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was what I had to do. And so I always encourage people to understand your blessings don't always come looking the way that you envision them, right? Sometimes he got to take you on a detour, but the detour be having a beautiful sight. You be like, oh, this is nice. I didn't know this mountain was over here, because you submit to it. And that's what I did. And it opened doors for me, just being myself. And I started, 2017, I was driving Uber and did the video of eating a sandwich in my car, the TTLA. And Whole Foods saw the video. That was my first viral video. Nobody was watching my videos. And I wasn't doing videos to go viral. I didn't know why I was doing them. I also didn't know what it meant to be viral.
Define, I have a virus? Yeah.
And so I remember when I was driving Uber. I stopped because I dropped somebody off. Whole Foods always have vegan options. I was a new vegan. Went in there, got this sandwich because I had never heard of vegan bacon.
Did you have a Prius by chance?
No, honey, I had a Chrysler 300.
Okay.
I was trying to be like I was black car service. And my car was purple. I was like, I'm going to try to be black car service, but they didn't buy it. But I still was getting this money.
It was a good-looking car. That was a good-looking car.
I was like, look, it got leather. It probably wasn't real leather, but anyway.
Little leg room in there for you, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so I was driving and I got the sandwich and I was like, oh, the sandwich is so good, I forgot to do a video. So I was like, oh, let me do a video, tell people I found a new vegan option because I was sharing, And when I got home, that video had like 50,000 views or something. I was like, who watching this video, And then the next morning, over 100-something thousand, I told my husband, I was like, I think I'm going viral. And he was like, well, what does that mean? I said, I don't know. And 4 days later, 4 days later, Whole Foods reached out. They slid in my DM on Facebook and was like, oh my God, we saw your video. We'd love to partner with you and work with you on some stuff.
Amazing.
And it took off from there. But I didn't just say, oh, this is it. I kept doing videos. I stayed consistent. And then other opportunities came. And then, like you said, when the pandemic hit in 2020, almost a couple years later, I was scared to get on TikTok. But my daughter was like, Mom, you should get on here. And I was like, Girl, ain't number kids on there dancing because I ain't know the app. Unfamiliar territory to me again. And she was like, no, Mom, I'm telling you, you could be like the TikTok mom. Like, you can go on there and do your recipes. You can do your inspirational videos. I was like, girl, they give you 1 minute. How am I going to do that in 1 minute? She was like, you can do it. So she was trying to show me. And I was like, all right. And she was right. You know, and sometimes we got to step outside our comfort zone and go into the unfamiliar territory because the blessing is on that side.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I did that, I went viral in that first week on TikTok. And in the first month, I had 1 million followers. And a week later, I had 2 million. It just kept growing.
Wow.
And all these things started to happen. And so many offers started coming in. They had been coming in for years, but now it was a whole different, it was completely different. And the thing that I learned that I always want to share with people is I said no more than I said yes.
That's huge.
It's huge. Like, all money ain't good money. And I don't do nothing for money. It has to feel right, you know, and it's got to mean something for me. I ain't for sale. And I always tell people, honey, there is not a price that you get to pay for Tab. You pay to partner with me, but you don't pay to own me. And so nobody gets control over me. Nobody takes my creativity. Nobody take my name. I am who I am. And if you can't accept that, then we can't work together. And so that's how I look at all of my partners. That's how I look at business. When I start a business, you know, it's got to be completely me. And it's got to mean something. You know, I got a hair care line because I named my hair Donna years ago. And so when I created Donna's Recipe, everybody knew. They were like, oh my God, that's her hair. Her hair named Donna. So this is her product, you know. It was intentional. I didn't know I was going to do that. But I remember cooking live in my kitchen, 2018. And my hair was very short because I did all the big chop. And it was starting to grow back. And I was like, Lord, my hair is sticking up straight like Don King. I guess I'm going to have to call her Donna.
Oh.
And it stuck.
Yeah.
And I started calling her Donna. Never with the intention of, I'm going to create a hair product. But then God kept telling me, he was like, you got to stay consistent with that. And I was like, okay. Even my cooking spoon, I named her Sheena. And everybody knows it's an old cooking spoon, honey. She done been through. Okay, she has been through war. She got whips on the back and everything. And so now I have a collection at Target. It's Sheena's Cousins, and it's cooking spoons. I didn't think of that in the moment, but consistency. So be consistent. Be you. Don't try to do it like nobody else. And when you start a business, make sure it means something to you. Don't do it for the money.
If you do it for the money, you burn out. No,
you burn out.
Everything you're saying is huge because, like, when I partner with, I'm like, we're partnering, and you're hiring me for a reason to bring me to the table.
Yeah.
And the minute you don't want me to be me, like, go find the person you want to be that person because that ain't me.
It ain't me. Yeah.
And,
listen, I done walked away from plenty.
And early on, like, I did a few things for money just because I got to pay the bills. Wasn't necessarily I didn't have my brand yet.
Right.
But it just didn't feel good.
Yeah.
It was a horrible experience. Wasn't even worth I think it cost me money. After all the money, it still costs you money because like the effort and the time and the sleeplessness is just not worth it.
Yeah.
And saying no comes, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
And there's a different mindset. Like, saying no is from abundance. Like, no, there's plenty for me. There's something else coming. And the other thing I'm hearing you saying, you just went with the flow. You're like, I'm going to show up. I'm going to move forward. Donna's hairline, Sheena's Cousins, like, it happens.
It came
I started with murals, and then it spread to all the things. Now we have a podcast show. I just want to share how people are showing up and love.
It's amazing.
Who knows what's next?
That's right. We never know. I expect the unexpected every day. Every day, anything can happen. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. So Target, you just launched a whole slew of things.
Yes, my third collection.
Okay.
It was vegan food and kitchen. So all the, vegan sausage and burgers, potato salad, pasta salad, soups, chilies, popcorn, which is one of my favorite things.
Dude, that's one of my things too.
I should have brought you some. Popcorn, pickled okra, and then all the things for your kitchen, grill pans, plates, cups, water bottles, salt and pepper shakers that are shaped like my dog. Blackie, honey, listen, he his own person, okay?
Oh, I know.
Coffee mugs.
I have a Tuesday. He's not a dog. He's a Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay. And then, I have another collection that comes, but this is my third drop because the first two were clothing and accessories. I did furniture in the office and just continuing to grow it.
Wherever you can put your hands on.
But listen,
No,
whatever
I feel
feels
you. I'm
right.
there with you.
Yeah, if it's right to me, let's do it. Yeah.
And then, so you have one other thing too, which is a children's show.
I do. Tab time. It's
So
my favorite thing.
tell me about that, because I've got my little son Remy,
Yeah.
and I keep playing in my head. I'm like, I should create like a whole thing around Remy and
You
just Remy and
should.
friends, and the pillars of what I'm talking about. But like, walk me
Yeah.
through what that's like. And
So tab time. I grew up on slow television for children. Like Mr. Rogers, and with me having 2 children, I realized TV has changed so much for them. It's so fast paced, and so I thought if I do a children's show, I wanted to slow back down for kids and really help them take in how they feel, right? And for years, when I would pray, I would hear God say to me, "Heal the world," and I would say, "Lord, I'm one person. How am I going to do that?" And so when I got sick and then healed myself through food, I thought, oh, my body is my world. That's what he meant. And he was like, nah, that ain't what I meant. I still need you to heal the world. And I was like, but how? And then one day he said it starts with children. And so I was like, oh. So I told my team, I was like, I want to do a children's show. And I want to teach children how to love themselves, how to see each other despite our differences, how to learn together, how to go on a journey together, have compassion for each other, right? All while having fun. And the hope is that those same children, they grow up and they become adults who still love themselves, see each other, have compassion for each other, but also will be willing to help heal each other. That's the goal, right? And so with Tab Time, we go on an adventure on every episode. There's always a question of the day because I have friends in my imagination. Because I teach children that how powerful their imagination is. And so my best friend is Avocado. It's Avi. He's in the garden. And he's always up to stuff that sparks my thought and my question. So like the first episode was how things grow. And so we have a conversation. And then I talk to the screen. I tell the children, I've been wondering, like, how do things grow? And so we go on a special adventure to answer that question. And so when I leave the garden, I turn into a cartoon and we go into special adventures. And that's where my best friend, who's a lightning bug, leads the way for me. And we go on this adventure together. And Lenny is her name. She knows nothing. Like, she's so funny because if she sees a zebra, she goes, oh, it's a striped refrigerator. I'm like, no, it's a zebra. Because, kids, they say what they see, you know. And then we go on this journey to different things and we show them through cartoons in that moment how things grow, whether it's animals or plants or whatever the case may be. And then when we leave there, we go into the lab and I always have a special guest. So I have celebrities that come and they come as characters. And so the first episode was Lorel, who's the comedian, and he played Farmer Sprouts. And so he taught us how things grow, like an orange. And sometimes even though an orange looks ready on the outside, it's not ready on the inside. And so that's teaching children that sometimes even if you look ready, you may not be ready. And it's okay, And then we leave there and we go to craft time. And in craft time, I actually get children to come to the set and they do a craft with me that also helps us answer the question. And it's the most fun when the kids come because, they're like 5, 6, 7. And a child's mind is the best playground.
Well, it's incredible.
Oh, honey, you just let them go and you will have so much fun. And I enjoy it so much. And then when we leave there, we go to snack time, which is also my favorite because I love to eat. Okay.
Snackies.
Yes. And I have friends, they help me in the kitchen, which are my, imaginary friends as well, Bernie and Starla. And that's like Bernie the oven mitt and Starla the spatula. And they talk while I'm, preparing the snack, which in the snack is also another way it teaches kids how, the answer to the question, but also it's a healthy snack. My snacks are always vegan without even telling the kids they're vegan. They just realize, wait, it's fruit, it's vegetables, it's, protein, whatever the case may be. And we leave there and we go to story time. And then we wrap it all up in a story with Lovey, who is my feelings in a heart-shaped emotion, right? And so whatever I'm feeling, her color changes to my feeling. So as I tell the story of our day, her colors change to reflect that. And then we talk about what we learned. And that's it. And I end it with a song with the kids. And I absolutely love it. We were nominated this year for 2 Emmys.
Congrats.
And it was mind-blowing for me. Thank you. And we're about to go into season 3 right now, next month.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you. I love it. I
So,
love kids.
I mean, I never had a burning desire to have kids. I knew that I would regret not having kids.
Yeah.
And then like you find your partner and you're like, should we have a kid?
wanna
Let's do this. And like I couldn't imagine my life without him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
it's hard.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
look,
yeah.
it's not easy, but life is more fulfilling. Like the purpose that like,
Yeah.
that's what it's about.
And then as they grow, you start to see yourself in them. And that is mind blowing. You're like, oh, wait, I do that. I sound like that too. Like, oh, this is me in child form. And then when they get older, because, you know, my daughter's 21, I'm like, this is me. My husband goes, oh, Lord, that's me right there. It's so funny. You're like, wow. But then you see the best parts of you. You know, you realize how much you've grown as a person because of them. And they teach us so much. They teach us so much how to love in a different way. You think that you know what love is when you find your partner. But when you have a child,
Yeah, it's another world.
it's a whole different type of love, you know. It's an amazing thing. I love being a mom. I love it.
No, mom, father, dad.
Yeah.
is best title in
Yeah.
the world. I come home, he's like, Dad! I'm just like, oh, I'm a hero.
Yes, you are. Yeah, to him.
It's
you
like
always
this
be.
feeling of like, you know, I had a dog before. I've had dogs my whole life, and they
Yeah.
give you this other love. Like,
Yes.
you know, I feel like we as humans don't deserve dogs. Like
They
they're
love
just
us
so,
unconditionally.
you know. And I got my little Tuesday, and he comes, but now I've got him, and then they both come, and they both
Yeah.
attack me, and then they compete with each other. Mostly Tuesday competes with Remy because
Yeah.
Remy doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Tuesday, calm down, like because he could jump higher and get up higher.
It's so cute.
But it's the greatest thing in the world.
It is.
you
I
know?
agree. Yeah.
And I think some of the lessons I'm getting and what I reinforce and what I talk about, it's only making me practice it more on myself. You know, and I talk about this a lot. Like, I can't teach everything, but I can show.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm showing it, they're going to learn it. Because if we tell someone to do something, they're going to rebel.
Yeah. This is very, listen.
Right? You need to
don't
be vegan.
force.
No, I don't. I'm going to go eat a cow.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah. Yeah. Don't force. Yeah. Show with love.
so all this stuff is going on. How do you balance all this?
Me first. Right. Start my day with me. Check on me throughout the day. End my day with me. And don't feel bad about it. Right. A good schedule, a great team. Again, don't say yes to everything. I reserve my yeses. Right. I use no. It's a superpower. And I only do what feels right. And when you do that, it doesn't feel like work and it's not so heavy. And it feels good. It creates its own balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions here. One is, how do you define love?
Well, we kind of just talked about that, right? There's different ways. But I think that for me, right, to love is to allow myself to be. It's the greatest way for me to love myself. You know, freedom means I love me. You know, understanding, grace, joy is also love for me. But patience and kindness and compassion, those are all ways that I describe love. Yeah.
You know, everything starts with love and fear, and everything packs in underneath both of those. The one thing I didn't hear you say, because sometimes people say like it's sacrifice, and I try to really, when someone says that, like, what do you mean by sacrifice? Because if you turn love into sacrifice or martyr or any of that, then you start making it a transaction. And then it could lead into like guilt and shame and you owe me and I did this for you. Like these are constant battles. Like, you know, with my parents or generations, or like now that I have a child, like, are they going to owe me? Are they not going to owe me? But we do need to remember the best way we could love our child is to love ourselves.
Yeah. We have to. We got to be an example of that. I don't believe that sacrifice is love. I just don't. I think, you know, when it comes to partnership, right? I've been with my husband for 25 years this year, married for 20.
Congrats.
And thank you. And I think that it's all about the partnership and understanding that sometimes you're going to have to do a little bit more. Sometimes I'm going to have to do a little bit more. we don't keep a record of that.
Not keeping a score.
We ain't keeping no score, right? If we're going to talk about sacrifice, the sacrifice is the vow. If that's how you want to look at it. To me, this is a sacrifice I'm making to be with you.
It's a choice.
It's a choice to be with you for the rest of my life and to uplift you, to bend with you, right? To rock with you, to roll with you. Like, that's what I believe. And whatever may come our way, we're going to do it together. But there will never be a thing where it's like, I sacrificed this for you. No, we did this together. It's a partnership. My husband is my partner. I always tell people for years, he's my partner, not my provider. We partner in this. Neither of us, it's not up and down. It's we together. So, yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing, because there's going to be ebbs and flow where one provides more monetarily or time or whatever it is, but it doesn't matter because it is balance and we need to be here.
Yeah.
And like it's our money, it's our life.
It's our life.
Exactly.
Right. And sometimes, like when I was sick, I wasn't able to give as much of me as I wanted. He had to take a little bit of that, And then vice versa. Sometimes when he had a job that was very stressful and it would also cause him anxiety or, depression, I had to be that extra thing for him and vice versa. We're not always going to be on one accord. We ain't always going to be perfect at the same time. Like we ain't going to both always be good.
Yeah.
Thank God for the good moments when we both be like, yeah, I'm good. You good? We're good. But sometimes, you know what? We ain't good. And we got to be like, all right, I got you. And we got to be okay with that.
And that's part of the journey. That's the work. That's why it's marriage. It's not a rom-com or fairy tales all the time. And the honeymoon phases come and go. And
yes. And some days you don't like each other. We love by default. Right? That's why we got a heart. God designed us to love. He did not design us to like. Right? So it's why you can see a stranger about to get hit by a car and your instinct is to save them. You might save them and then realize, oh, I don't like you though.
You don't have to like them, but you don't have to let them die.
All right? Okay, good. Y'all going about your business, right? But we love naturally. It's what we're loving beings.
Yeah.
And so.
That's why we're on this planet.
That's why we here, honey, with these good old hearts.
To thrive, not merely survive and get by.
That's right. Come on with it.
Yeah, that's a line from one of my poems.
I love it.
So my final favorite question is, how would you define living a life through love?
Well, I think I kind of just said that, but living a life through love is how I make others feel. Because I love me, right? My intent is always to love others. I've always hashtag spread love or lead with love. And that's what I do. I literally lead with love, give grace, and I'm intentional with it. That's it.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I do ask the two questions for a reason. And sometimes it leads back and forth, but no, you're steady through. And there's nothing wrong with loving yourself. I think people get confused now. I mean, let's look at a narcissist, Trump, right? They're like, oh, if I love myself, I'm like that. No, that's not what that means.
He clearly does not love himself.
No, that's a whole different level of narcissism. And
yeah, that's not self-love.
But some people confuse it with self-love and loving themselves with ego and arrogance and
selfishness. Yeah, that's the thing I always try to tell people, honey. Loving yourself, it doesn't mean you're selfish, but not in a bad way. And sometimes being selfish is not a bad thing.
No, selfish is okay.
Right, it's okay. Sometimes we got to be selfish with our time, with our peace, with our joy, right? We can't let people into our space all the time that may try to take that from us. So sometimes it's all right to be selfish, but that's also loving yourself. Yeah. No. We deserve that. We're worthy of that.
We're worthy. We are enough. We all belong.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that we constantly have to question all of that.
Yeah.
Am I worthy? Do I belong? Am I enough? Like, we already know the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. It's a rigged fight. I always tell people it's a rigged fight. If we knew that we already had the victory, we already have it. So it's a rigged fight. We are sent here to win.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for giving me one of your yeses. That's amazing. I feel so honored. And where can everybody find you?
I am Tabitha Brown pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Live Through Love. If you love this episode, you'll love this episode.